Welcome back to Tech Vets, the podcast, and today we are joined by Jonathan Sproule. Is that correct, how you pronounce your name?
It is, actually, yes. It is.
Right, first time. Now, you have a very unique story, and this isn't one that we've covered before. Normally, it's quite conventional. People, well, not conventional, I guess, but people have served in the forces and then they transition to cybersecurity. But your role that you transition from is completely different to anyone that I've spoken before. So tell us what you did in the military.
Well, yeah, you're right. Actually, it's funny that actually, you have. I guess my background would be, I guess you would say, it falls into the non-traditional route or vector into the space cybersecurity. I used to be a professional musician in the army. My last band was with the band of the Welsh Guards in London. So, and I played an instrument actually that I spend most of my time probably describing, unlike the flute or the oboe or the trombone. Everyone knows actually, but my instrument is called the euphonium. It's And before, just to preempt any questions, it's it's something that looks similar to the tuba, just half the size of a tuba. It's a melodic instrument. It's a solo instrument, and yeah, I used to do a lot of that stuff, state ceremonial events and Trooping in the Colour in London, where I finished my time there under the band of the Welsh Guards. But yeah, that's what I used to do, and I used to tour around the world pretty much with the band. And it's the best job in the world, if you're in terms of if you're a musician and you want to pursue that career. It's amazing opportunities there with that.
So what made you leave the military when you're in a role such as a professional musician?
Yeah.
What made you, because most people would think, well, you'd leave the military and go and be a professional musician on the outside because you've got a very particular set of skills. So why did you leave the military in the first
You make
instance?
me sound like you just prompted me there. You make me sound like taking there actually a particular set of skills almost actually. It's not quite those, but it's yeah, you're right actually. Why would you leave, right? If you've got a career such as that one. I was very fortunate in doing it for a living. But I guess there's always a girl involved. When you meet a girl involved, I used to fly back and forward. As you can hear from my accent, I'm from Northern Ireland, and I used to fly back and forward often. So much so that I guess the crew at Gatwick used to know me quite a bit. And yeah, I know I met a girl over here in Northern Ireland at the time, and hence flying back and forward even more. And then I remember kind of thinking at the outside, preparation is key as well. Usually what happens is people from the forces, they get to the end of their time and unfortunately they don't prepare as much as they can do or should do. And so I looked at that. I was thinking about that, and I guess looking forward a lot in terms of where I would be, what I would be doing. And I guess I knew I was going to go back home to Northern Ireland anyway. Then at that time. And I thought, actually, okay, I'm a logical person, and I thought, okay, let's look at the market and things like that. But even before that step, I remember I was in a coffee shop at the time in London, and I just remember one little line stood out, one little piece. It was a segment in a magazine that I was reading at the time. It was about Northern Ireland being one of the cybersecurity hubs in the UK, and I thought, oh, okay, actually, that I'll look into that. I'll dig a little bit deeper. I'll scratch the surface. I'll understand a bit more about the market, the industry, and the skills, knowledge, and all that stuff and things, and the roles, and which I did. But that was kind of the seed. First off, once I dove down the rabbit hole a bit more, that provided me with the information that I needed to kind of firm that that was where I wanted to go into then. And align myself in. And yeah, so I resettled back to Northern Ireland Fast forward, resettled back to Northern Ireland, settled down, get married. Actually, some people say you shouldn't actually do all those things at the same time, but I got married, relocated, and a new career as well, new role. So that was kind of funny, and it kind of kept me busy. I have no hair left anyway, but so yeah, that kept me busy. I came back to Northern Ireland, resettled, and I settled into the industry. My first role as a consultant, actually, with DXC technology. Yeah.
What role, because you can't just go from being a professional musician to working for a company like DXC Technology and cybersecurity. So,
Can you
well, it would be wonderful if you could, because I think everyone would be leaving the military in their road to follow you. But what path did you take? So did you go through tech vets? How did you retrain or upskill?
Yeah. Well, so again, I was very fortunate. When I was pivoting across at the time, it was, I guess it was very early on in the industry anyway, and people leaving the forces to go into cybersecurity. There wasn't a huge amount of, not that there, not as much as there is now, right? So it was kind of uncharted territory to some extent. Back then, I did a lot of training beforehand. I did all of the kind of certifications that you would come to know, to kind of get the conceptual knowledge and things like that, and theory. But actually, what I did do, I found a opportunity with it was Howard Hawks, actually, and PGI, Protection Group International in Bristol, who were running this kind of program, basically, that would take vets who were transitioning and run them through typical courses, which also give you the opportunity to sit the examinations and get certifications. But it also provided the opportunity to get employment actually with the private sector at the end of that, where you would do an interview with those companies, and there was in order to get through that kind of training program, you step back before that, you needed to do some tests and things as well, and which fine-tuned the cohort down even further to get in there. But it was around about, so almost like basic training, it was almost about 14 weeks. I think it was, just thinking about it now. I think it was like basic training without all the weather and the cold, and all of that stuff. And so I pivoted into DXC Technology at the end of that time. Relocating back home to Northern Ireland to work with that organization, actually.
So what's your area of specialism? Because there's so many pathways in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
How did you know what you wanted to focus on? So whether it was kind of pen testing or other elements, how did you kind of start the journey and then hone in on your strengths?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. It really is, because yes, I guess the shop front pretty much does cybersecurity is pen testing. Everybody knows it, and thinks that that's pretty much all you can do, and all you need to do is the technical roles in cybersecurity, and there's so much more awareness needs to be created for that actually in itself. And I know the pathways with the Cybersecurity Council and things, and I know there's a lot of work going on with it anyway, which is fantastic to see, and even this nice. But yeah, I mean, so after learning a lot about the industry, about the roles, and actually what they do, really, what do they actually do on a day-to-day basis when you come in, when you sit down at your virtual desk and you open up what do you actually do in terms of the tasks actually, and what skills is needed for that. And because there's a lot of theoretical stuff, there's a lot of marketing spin on it all, which you need to cut through. And so even I did a lot of networking in London, a lot of networking, a lot of actually, I think I was out every other night, I think. So that provides an additional layer of understanding some of the context and getting that, even the macro, the culture of cybersecurity at a high level, and an understanding of the roles, and guidance and support. Mentorship is so important as well. And so I guess through that lens, I knew that I liked something with risk management in that space. It's logical. You're pretty much asking questions, and you're looking for objectivity versus subjectivity, the wet finger in the air type thing. So you're kind of at a high level governance, providing the guardrails, the framework, with which everything else sits inside of. I knew I wanted to go into that kind of space actually. And I'm a big fan of CRQ, cyber risk quantification stuff, the FAIR methodology, and so I knew that was the space that I'd like to go into once I scratched that surface and read more and talked to lots of people at many different organizations who were incredibly supportive. So I'm very lucky, actually. Yeah.
How does Tech Vets come into play with you? So do you, are you on the Discord channel? Do you help other people leaving?
Yeah, actually, Tech Vets, I remember, yes, when I first started up, actually, yeah, and I became a member of Tech Vets. Again, it was, I guess, because I used the PGI program that I mentioned. Tech Vets is a incredible resource for all vets coming through. There is so much opportunity I see all the time, but I mean, I provide mentorship to serving members. Indeed, I receive, there's lots of messages that I get from people at the moment, just looking and seeking the typical kind of the questions that I used to ask myself. If I'm honest, I know where they're coming from. And so, help with mentorship in that respect. And steering them towards a lot of different resources and the pathways that Tech Vets provides as well, which is fantastic. It really is. There's so much. So yeah, in terms of my role within Tech Vets, there's a lot of mentorship stuff that I would be getting involved with there in order to pay it back. Actually, if I'm honest, I'm just mindful all the time of giving back. I'm mindful of that because sometimes I think people probably come in and they fly off, they disappear into the sunset, and you don't see anything of them actually. So I'm always mindful of making the time, and indeed, I know that I did a talk not so long ago there, and I know there's lots of people who reach out to me on a couple of different things, but Tech Vets is just incredibly important actually for me, and I know for everyone else. And I know some people aren't aware of what it is, and I play a small part in signposting and making sure that people can navigate what they need to, the resources, and have access to that and things. And so yeah.
For people who, if there's someone listening now who's in the Royal Corps of Army Music and they think, could I possibly, move from being a professional musician to working for, DXC is a massive technology company.
It is, yes. Yeah.
It's quite a kind of leap of faith. What would be your advice be to someone, and what courses would you recommend them doing to get their kind of eye in and understand whether it would be for them?
Yeah, well, for someone from the musical background, first off, actually, if I'm honest, coming from a musical background, right, there'll be people having imposter syndrome, which is very real in our space. There'll be people thinking, actually, oh, how on earth can I do something in that space? Actually, where would I fit? First off, fundamentally, you have the forces kind of head on, which fundamentally which means that you have the inherent understanding of what security is, how important security is, the principles of security, the impact of security, albeit it's physical security, I know, kinetic stuff, but you have that responsibility and that understanding, which is so needed, in our space, definitely. So you have that first off, and then obviously all the good standards that forces people inherently bring anyway. And then you layer up with the musical side of things on top of that. Actually, coming from the Royal Corps of Music, you also have emotional intelligence is huge in our industry. We need more of it. Definitely helps in every role, not least obviously cybersecurity, but specifically in technical roles and anything like that. It helps with communication, influence, understanding, reading the room. Emotional intelligence is so so important, and I think it definitely needs to be more focus on, and I think more companies are actually going that way in terms of softer skills. But anyway, the kind of the people coming from the world covering music, getting back to that, actually what they can do is a fundamental thing that you can first start off with is, like I did, review, take a look at the market, actually take a look at the tech vets, of course. Tech vets, definitely take a look, because there are so many channels on the Discord there that you can review on your own time. You'll see a lot of the people asking the similar questions first off as well, so it might help you with some of those things. But review what you like, actually, in terms of what the roles do. Because you need to come to work loving what you do, enjoying what you do, right? It needs to be a good fit from both sides of the fence, employer and employee. And so, if you're going to work and you don't really like what you do, the product, the output isn't going to be terribly good, is it? So, you need to engage your heart, and to engage your heart, you need to like or love what you do. So, in terms of getting it right, I think that's so important, and understanding which role, where you want to go down, actually. And so, kind of putting your feelers out there, and the networking, like I did, attending the network events, speaking to industry professionals as well, to add another layer on top of what you're learning on your computer screen, or your paper. That additionally adds another layer. Ask questions, gain insights. But the CV is so important, so incredibly important to shape as well. Yeah, that's so important. I know sometimes there isn't a lot of time afforded to that particular skill set. That definitely gets you in the door. And then once you're in the door, I guess forces people fundamentally are fairly good in front of people, fundamentally. So you would hope that they would get through that stage. But the CV definitely, I would recommend working on, and spending a lot of time on the CV, understanding where you want to go, your role, actually preparing in advance as well. Prepare in advance, yeah. Don't like we all do in the forces. Preparation is key. So you don't leave it last minute, and don't leave it 1 year. Leave it quite a way out, actually, in terms of understanding what you want to do. So your preparation, in that respect, and then you can obviously do the certifications, which is geared on whichever kind of pathway that you decide to go down, whether that's going to be technical or non-technical. So that will choose for you what those certifications are. There will be some that are common, and the reason why I say that is, even if you do decide to go down something which is a non-technical role, there are the certifications that are technical that I would recommend that you do take anyway, actually, because it provides a good fundamental understanding of everything that you will be working within. And if you can communicate to the technical people in your organization at their level, speak to them on their level, then that will help incredibly, actually. So networking I'm talking about here, networking stuff, you come to a network plus, and security plus, things like that, are I would say are pretty fundamental stuff that you should have. And they're pretty good. So certifications, you've got the soft stuff you build on. And actually another thing that probably isn't thought about or talked about much is, as as organizations look at, give me 10 years of experience for someone new to the industry, which is an incredible barrier. And I know there's a lot of work going on to kind of meet expectations on that, right? Actually, I know, in industry, but you look at how you can start projects on your own, and whether that's hack the box, try hack me, right? That's fine, alongside you're learning concurrently, but also within your own unit, actually, within your own unit, within your own band, look at how you can leverage your learning. So in particular, I'm talking about here the unit security officers and the IT security officers are strategically placed within bands, actually, and units in general, to actually carry out those projects and tasks that you're learning and get involved with, actually, and so you can put on your CV, and you can actually say, yeah, I've got this. I've done it for 3 years. Done it for 2.5, whatever the term may be, actually. And here's the evidence. And you can talk to that. Stuff like that. Just bring the learning to life, get involved, ask questions. Your experience starts now, where you are. Make it what it is. Reach out to Hive. Reach out to get involved, and definitely volunteer, as well, outside of, there may be charities that you can work with, perhaps, in securing their systems or helping them, or just shadowing merely. The world really is your oyster. If there is nothing out there that you see online on that, just really reach out. From in terms of mentorship is so important in our industry, and again, TechVets provides that. So, yeah, there's many great resources in TechVets in there, and yeah, hopefully I've mentioned. I know I've rattled off quite a few there, but those are a lot of the things that definitely come to mind from a preparation perspective.
That's really good advice. There's so much there. People will probably be listening and scribbling down kind of the buzzwords of pathway to success, as told by Jonathan. Are there any aspects of your military service that you miss? Because it is such a change, isn't it?
It definitely is, actually. Yeah, it really is. It is a gear change, and I know a lot of people that I talk to who made the journey, who made the hop across, would always say the same thing. We have a unique banter. We have a unique humor in, which is not to be confused for anything else. But banter is humor in a positive aspect. That is, we definitely miss that, actually, that camaraderie, that bond, and that family. That's definitely unique to all services. The ambulance service, the police service, and I know the armed forces as well, and that's definitely something that you do miss, actually. And I think I'm still in touch with a lot of my friends, and it's one of those things as well that you can pick up with people right away, even though you haven't seen them in 8 years, 7 years, or whatever it may be. Yeah, you can pick up with them right away, and it is the banter, yeah, the fun stuff, and even the times where because the forces is what it is, you're kind of in a closed space, actually. Even from a musical perspective, sometimes there were sometimes there were concerts that maybe didn't go too well, or something happened during rehearsal. The kind of locker room afterwards, that time of a banter and that fun, and the kind of it's almost like school a little bit, actually. It was quite funny, and so, yeah, I mean, definitely miss all of that stuff. And having said that, though, I guess, good organizations anyway, who have a great culture, kind of promote that sense of togetherness, anyway, whether it's teamwork, voluntary work, getting involved in that respect. You can do that. And actually, there's a lot of organizations that have their own vets inclusion groups, which is an opportunity for people to connect. And indeed, I'm a part of Proof Points, employee engagement group with vets all over the world. So it's a great opportunity to still keep that connection and still keep that banter, which is great. It's a fantastic opportunity.
And I've got to ask you, do you still play music?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, it's hard to. I guess it's hard to put it down. If you've been playing it for, it's funny. Playing a musical instrument is unlike any of the other kind of skills that you come into the army with. You come into the army, you learn in the army, then and there. You learn whether it's a drummer, whether it's a dentist, whether it's a medic, whether someone on the front line, in the infantry. You learn those skills throughout your time in the army, actually. But musicians are very, very different, actually. So you have to be, I guess, a certain standard of musician before you actually join. You get auditioned and then you join, on that respect. So it's part of my life before the army and throughout the army, and so it's kind of hard to put down, definitely, as part of me, and it provides a release as well. It is one of that thing. I do, incredibly busy in my role at the minute, and so it's actually quite nice to pick it up next to my desk and play in the evening and keep it up. And indeed, I'm actually a reservist now, with the Royal Irish Regiment Band in Northern Ireland actually. So it gives me still a good opportunity there to connect, albeit on a voluntary basis now. But I still play. I pick it up on my desk to play, and indeed I do a few solos as well. But it is nice difference, and it just highlights one of those things where you know even as a all well-rounded individual, I guess, not just about music, but if you got your technical, you got your day job, your role. Actually, it's good to have something different to do, another hobby, and to do. Again, some of those skills that you can bring in to the workplace. So I still play. Yeah, it's right over here, beside me. So yeah.
Well, you know what I'm going to ask next.
I do. Hang on. I do. I do. I do indeed. I promise I haven't disappeared, by the way. I haven't ran out the door, but yes, here it is. It's kind of,
Brilliant.
so there it is there. It's much like like I said, like a tuba, but a lot smaller actually. And you know, for anybody actually playing, I'm going to put it down.
Oh no,
But
you can't put it down. You're gonna have to play a piece of music now.
I'm not prepared to say that's you put me on the spot now. You see, I have to get my mouthpiece. I have to get all that stuff. What have I done? This has changed the course of things now, hasn't it? Yeah, you can see. Hopefully, you can see. You got mouthpiece, bell, some valves. It's actually got 4 valves. The one down here. But it's one of those things for anybody who's in a pub quiz in the future. The euphonium actually means sweet sounding instrument actually. So if you're in a pub quiz, bit of free knowledge there if it comes up. It means sweet sounding instrument, euphonium. So if anybody wants to pop their checks in the post to me, I can supply your I can supply the address afterwards. But yeah, it's quite deep. It's quite a deep instrument and quite high as well. You can. So it's quite it can play quite high, quite low, quite it's actually the closest brass instrument to the human voice, as well. So a little bit like Pavarotti, or the cello actually in an orchestra. So yeah, there it is, the euphonium.
I think that is the perfect way to wrap up this interview, because it's almost like a jingle out of the podcast, which is brilliant. But I think for anyone who's been listening, and if they want to get in touch with you, whether to pick your brain about working at DXC Technologies or the courses that you took to get where you are today, or leaving, professional music in the military, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can definitely find me on LinkedIn. Actually, it's probably the best way. LinkedIn, yeah. I can provide you with the profile there afterwards, if you wanted to include it in the notes. Actually, definitely more than happy. By the way, for anybody to get in touch, definitely 100%. There is no such thing as a silly question. I've always been told that, and I firmly believe in it. And anything, anytime, if I can help, I will do. So please reach out to me, catch me.
Thank you so much. And we'll put the link to your LinkedIn profile in the description of this podcast. But thank you so much, Jonathan. That has been the most dynamic one so far. And I'm going to have to ask some crazy questions to get people to top that for a live demo of something else. So I'm going to have to rack my brains. But that's been really helpful. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for inviting me on here. Actually, it's a real pleasure. So thank you very much.